Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I'm going to be running through just a lot of tips and tricks that I have on permanent extension maintenance, especially for my girls that are like me that have naturally curly hair too. If you're familiar with extensions, most of the time the extension's natural hair is not going to match your curl pattern. There's an even smaller chance that they'll even have a type of wave or curl pattern to them sometimes, depending on extensions you get. So I was nervous for years of getting permanent extensions due to that matter, because I just know I care for my natural hair way differently than I care for my extensions. So I just was always nervous about making sure I would still be able to care for both separately, even though they're both permanently on top of my head. I got permanent extensions back in May and I have loved them. They have like drastically changed my hair. What I technically have in my hair is a volume weft, or generically it'd be called a machine tied weft. My hair has honestly never been healthier since I've gotten my extensions in. Biggest lifestyle changes you're gonna have with permanent extensions would be washing, drying / styling, and sleeping. Yes, there is some lifestyle changes with those. When you break it down, there's only like 3 of the main variables, and they do vary based on the method. So I'm not going to talk just strictly on wefts. I'm not going to talk strictly on I-tips. And I'm not going to talk strictly on K-tips. I'm just going to talk in a very generic range. And again, just more so elaborate for those that have curly hair, what you can do to make sure that you're caring for both your curls and for the extensions at the same time. So one of the biggest things with caring for permanent extensions is brushing. Brushing is super important, and sometimes when I say this to my clients at first, they kind of look at me kind of like, well, no duh. But you do have to brush your hair a lot differently and a lot more thoroughly than you do when you don't have extensions in. You also need to be sure that you're using a quality brush as well. A thorough yet gentle detangling brush. My 2 favorites are by either Wet Brush or from Mars. I'll link them down below. You'll see me using this one in the video. I recorded like steps of me caring for my extensions without talking, just so I could like overlay it through. The biggest thing with brushing your extensions is when you're doing it and how thoroughly are you doing it. There's 2 different ways of like kind of how I say you go about brushing your extensions. There's like what I call like the super thorough way, and then there's just like the like maintenance throughout the day version. So you for sure have to brush your extensions in the most thorough way right when you wake up and right before you lay down to go to bed, because this helps to keep your extensions the softest, and it helps to prevent matting, and it just helps for them to stay comfortable all throughout the day as well. And also too, it just helps them look the best too, because with extensions they definitely do want to clump together more, depending on the method too. Some want to clump together a lot more than others. So when you're doing a very thorough brush, the other time that you need to do it is right before you shower. Right now, what you guys see is me taking out my ballerina bun from me sleeping, and I'm about to hop in the shower to wash my hair, so it's like a 2-in-1 kind of. Again, I was taking a shower right when I woke up, so I just waited to take my hair down until I was about to shower. But anyway, you want to take your hair out and you want to start at the ends. Make sure that you're holding this area really taut. This is like what I would call like the low ponytail area. But as you're detangling your ends, keep this area taut. Okay, I recommend that anyway when you don't have extensions in, just because that's, especially for tender-headed girls, having your hand holding it as like a barrier of that tension will help to keep your scalp from getting like really sore. And then for extensions too, that helps to prevent any rows that you have, any extensions that you have from slipping from the knots, because obviously, you know, when you are really tugging at a knot, especially when they're really tangly, you know, you'll be putting a lot of tension on you know, your scalp area, so that just kind of helps to like alleviate that. But when you kind of have everything like here below all detangled, that's when you'll kind of start to work your way up. When you have extensions in, there's a very high chance that on this interior part of your hair where your extensions are laying, even if it doesn't feel tangly since you were sleeping, there's just a high chance that there's like just like the tiniest of knots or hair sticking together from your extensions to your natural hair, and that needs to be brushed, like I said, at least twice a day minimum. So that's where you want to make sure that you're really focusing your brushing right on this weft area. After you get like your whole surface area brushed out, don't hesitate to section out where your rows are and brush then row by row. So what you could do is, I have a row right in the nape of my neck So what I used to do at first was clip all of this up. I don't have a clip with me, so pardon me. And then I would take my brush and brush all in through here. You want to go from right below where your extension point of attachment is, or where your weft is laying. I'm going to either say bonds or weft a lot. The bonds is where your I-tip or your K-tip will connect to your natural hair, and the weft is the same way. Okay. So what I like to do is I start out right below where my weft is, and then I brush all the way down. If I feel like I feel a little bit of extra tangliness on top of that, once when everything below my weft is good, I will sometimes swoop right on top of my weft just to again make sure that any area right there is all nice and detangled. And then I would take this out, and then I have a middle row, so again I'd clip all this up, and I would do the same thing, and then I do the top. Once when you feel like you've kind of got it and you don't feel like you need to necessarily pre-section out, great. Show that you're still thoroughly brushing in a way that you're still taking care of all of your wefts. So something that I like to do is I will just like tilt my head to the side, and that will kind of help to expose my weft right here, and my highest one right here. I have 3 in, just in case if you wanted to know. I'll do this, and then also then too, I'll go from the back and I'll brush with my head tilted to the side. I just feel like it kind of helps like move my top hair like kind of up and out of the way. And I'll do the same on the other side then too. So again, once you kind of feel like you don't necessarily need to pre-section out your hair, you can just do it that way. But again, you have to brush out your extensions right away in the morning, right before you go to bed at night, before you shower too. So now for shampooing and blow drying. So something non-negotiable with hair extensions is quality shampoo. You just invested so much money into not just your extension hair itself, but also the install, and you just kind of signed up for routine maintenance with it too. That's a big thing with extensions, is it's not like you're just paying that right up front and you're good for 6 months to a year like you might be with a bougie balayage, but you have to maintain that anywhere between 4 to 8 weeks most likely. In order to protect that investment, it's literally the same concept as like car insurance essentially. You're not going to go buy a big bougie car and then not insure that said car, God forbid something happens to it. Or if you do, that's kind of foolish on your end then too. So it's the same concept with quality shampoos and conditioners. I tell all of my clients, if they don't, and this might sound kind of harsh, but it's the truth, if you're not going to be using the products that I recommend for you, or at least extension safe, sulfate free, like color safe, preferably professional shampoos, I can't guarantee any longevity of your extension. So if you're going to go and you're going to use like drugstore shampoo on them, if they don't last very long, that should not come out of my end. And all of my extension clients do sign a waiver saying that they understand that they have to either use what I recommend for them, or again, like if whatever they do use, if that affects their quality of extensions, that's not on me. Especially because it is such a high ticket item. If you're a client, you just have to understand, like, please, if you're going to listen to your stylist about something, listen to them about using quality shampoos, because again, like, there's nothing guaranteed behind anything that you can get at the drugstore. Shampooing is a really important part as well, because not only do you need to make sure that you are obviously like cleansing your natural scalp, but your extensions are going to need cleansed very well too. And you want to do it in a way that's gentle yet extremely effective. So a couple things that I recommend you doing is shampooing twice, and you really need to make sure that you're having a clean scalp while you're wearing your extensions. That doesn't mean that you have to have a clean scalp all 7 days of the week, but when you are washing, it's really important to purify your scalp as much as possible, because that will help to obviously keep your scalp healthy with your extensions. It's going to help to prevent any itching as well, any itching or uncomfort. And again, that's just something else too that will just help to keep your extension lasting as long as possible. Something that I like to do is when I am working in the back of my extensions, when I am scrubbing, I like to do horizontal, because then I feel like I'm really able to get right in between my rows. When you are shampooing your natural hair, it's really common for us to want to do those circular motions, like those circular massage motions. And there's definitely nothing wrong with that, doing that on like your natural hair area. Like all of this top part of my hair has no extension to it, so I will like really get in there. But where your rows are, where your wefts or your bonds or where any of your extensions are, you want to shampoo going along where your extensions are placed. It will just help to prevent any of them from doing any unneeded slipping. I will put one finger on the bottom and one finger on the top, with shampoo in my hands, and I will like go in this motion. I'm getting the top and bottom of my natural scalp, and I'm getting the top and bottom of my weft too, but I'm also going along where my extension's placed. I say going in this horizontal motion because this is going along where the extension's placed. You can technically go in a vertical motion, but I feel like even going in a vertical motion, in my opinion, can disrupt how the extensions are laying. But what you can also do too, if you're worried about this getting in your way, clip up your top half. I did that for my first like month or so with extensions. I washed my top separately, then I washed my bottom, just so I knew that I was for sure getting all of my bases covered. And again, once when I realized I kind of had the hang of it, then I didn't have to necessarily clip them out of the way, but I still do, as you guys are seeing in the clips, I still am making sure if I feel like anything appears in the way, I move it out of the way. Don't feel like you have to like shampoo everything all laying down perfectly. You do want to make sure you're getting the product out of your ends when you're shampooing, and sometimes I feel like just running, like letting the water run down isn't always like necessarily enough, especially if you have like a lot of hairspray or a lot of texture spray in your extensions. So what I really like to do, and I even recommend this for those that don't have extensions in, is just with a little bit of product of shampoo on your hands, just scrunch the shampoo in on your ends. Do not by any means, please, for the love of God, do not do any of this. Your extensions don't need any of this. That's just going to ask to rough up the cuticle of them. That's going to ask to expose the cuticle of them. And then you're going to be wondering why your extensions feel like straw. So don't do that. Literally just scrunching them through. Or even if you just have some shampoo in on your hands and you're just brushing it through and then letting the water run down, is plenty that it gets that product out, but yet it keeps everything laying nice and soft. The biggest thing when washing your hair, especially when shampooing, is you want to keep everything going downwards. Why? Because that will help to keep your cuticle laying downwards. That's why I say when you're shampooing your hair too, you don't want to rough this up in here because that can easily cause matting. Now where your extensions are attached, no, you don't want to necessarily go up and down too much because that might cause, again, like what I said earlier, slipping. But to get that scalp area, that's where you go horizontally, and as long as you're not going in that like circular motion where you're causing things to go up and down too much, you're not going to rough up your cuticle. That's going to be what can help keep your extensions laying the softest and the shiniest for as long as they realistically can. Now for masks. You definitely want to use a mask every time you shampoo. Using a mask every time you shampoo is going to be just the one guaranteed thing that keeps your extensions super nice and soft and shiny and healthy. We have to remember that extensions are not living hair anymore. The extensions can't absorb the natural oils in them like our natural hair can. That's why you hear people say all the time, like, you literally have to baby them because it's already dead hair on your scalp, and once when they're dead, there's not really a whole lot of going back. So because of that, using a mask every time is going to be what really just helps to keep them, again, just feeling the nice and softest for the longest period of time possible. What I like to do is I really like to wring out a lot of the excess water before I put my mask on. You don't necessarily have to towel dry by any means, but extensions carry a lot of water in them, and so if you just rinse out your shampoo and go right in with your mask, that's just gonna slip right out, not even absorb in the hair, and just go right down the drain as soon as you like put it on your hair. So really wring your hair out. When you're wringing your hair out though too, don't do any twisting motions like this. Just, again, scrunching, not twisting. If you're having to do anything on the ends when the hair is wet, scrunch, don't twist. When in doubt, scrunch it, don't twist it unless you're being told otherwise. And then what I like to do then also when applying my mask is I start out in the low ponytail area. So you'll see me grabbing my hair right at the nape of my neck, not anywhere near where my weft is attached to my scalp. Keep that in mind and look very closely. And I just run that all the way down through the ends of my hair. And then once when I feel like I've got it all through my extensions, then what I will do is I will lift up and separate my natural hair from my extensions. I will work from like the mids and ends down and go from there. But you want to make sure that you're not putting any conditioner, oils, or any products with slip near the bonds of your extensions or near the weft of your extensions, because those slippery products can make the extensions slip out of the hair too. And also too, it just also encourages like an oily scalp, and oily scalps can encourage, again, the same type of slipping. So be very careful. You obviously, you need to mask and condition and treat your hair, but just make sure that you're not putting those products in your scalp. or anywhere near it. Let that sit for a few minutes, and then when you're rinsing it out, I really just like to pretty much just like tilt my head back, and it's really not, I don't really feel like I have to do anything super out of the ordinary. Every now and again I might like split my extensions apart, like I might like divide it in two, so that when I'm rinsing it out, then I make sure that like I'm getting everything right in here. Or I might lift up my top and separate from the bottom just to make sure that like where my wefts are, you know, I'm getting everything out. But there, other than that, there's not a whole ton of like things different that you do in terms of rinsing. And then for conditioner, a lot of deep conditioning masks will say that you can skip conditioner if you choose, and you absolutely can. I like to still go in with conditioner. I look at it as kind of just like a top coat. Just for a couple things. One, my natural hair is naturally really dry, so especially now, I'm filming this in December. From now until like March, April, there's not too much like conditioner or not too much oil for my natural hair, especially for the ends of my hair. My ends of my hair get really dry, and same with my scalp too. And then the same concept as with putting a mask on is just, again, like anything that you can do to help keep your extensions the softest as long as possible and keep them like the bounciest is great. So conditioner, even using a mask and conditioner, it's just like using that like extra level step, and it just kind of, like I said, adds as a little like softness top coat. So I normally will let my mask sit on anywhere from like 5 to 10 minutes, and when I put my conditioner on, I really don't let it sit for an extraordinarily amount of time because I did just let a mask sit on for a long time. Now that we're ready to get out of the shower, make sure you wring your hair out again really well before you even put a towel in it, because again, extensions hold so much water. One extra step that you can do is opt for more of like a microfiber towel compared to like a traditional towel. Microfiber is just a little bit more gentler on the hair. When you're towel drying your extensions, scrunch, don't twist, same thing, especially right now because again, the hair is super fragile right now, and if you do any extra pulling, wringing right now, you can again still cause any type of slippage or just any type of damage to the extensions in general. You can like do the whole towel thing and put your hair on top of your head. I don't like to do that as much with extensions because for one, I just feel like it's just super heavy, honestly. So I just feel like it's a little bit more uncomfortable. For two, it's the same thing as like, again, the hair is wet. It's the most fragile. That extra twisting with the towel, with the hair wrapped around the towel, that definitely can like really cause some damage on the extensions. And two, I feel like with the hair being wet and then you're pulling your hair up, that can, I get scared because I feel like since that's not where the extensions are naturally placed to lay, you know, obviously the extensions are placed to be laid down. Yes, you can put your hair up with them, but I feel like since it's wet, and again, it's the most malleable, it's the most easiest to be manipulated at that time, I could just very well see a extension situation gone wrong where like flipping that up and out of the way will make your extensions like slip a little bit more. So I say if you do want to do that, do it with caution for those very reasons. What I just like to do is just, again, make sure my hair is very well towel dried, and then I will let it air dry for about like the first 30 minutes. But before I let it air dry, I go ahead and I put my styling products in right away. So with the styling products on your extensions only, you should really only be putting like nourishing products on them when it's wet, especially. I really don't like to opt for like volume or super strong holding products, just because a lot of times the stronger holding products that you're using, you might have to like dry your hair out a little bit to get it to hold. It might have alcohol in them. Just things that will be a little bit drying and a little bit harsh on the extensions. So you'll see I only put a leave-in conditioner and an oil on my extensions, and that's just plenty to like soften it. Extensions are amazing, and I feel like they already have just like natural memory and hold in them that our natural hair doesn't normally have. So any of my volumizing or like just harsh, like longer holding styling products, I'm just putting in my natural hair. And even with that, I'm only putting it on the topmost part because that's the part that really matters. I don't ever put volumizing products under my hair anyway because I feel like that just is going to cause poofiness. So I recommend with that you put your products in when your hair is very well towel dried, but before you're letting it air dry, because that's just the way that most products are recommended to be put in, is on towel dried hair. When you let your extensions air dry too much, it very well can like cause them, again, that whole sticking factor, that clumpiness factor on the ends, that can definitely happen up in your bonds too. Same concept of your hair being the most gentle when it's wet. Excess water is very heavy. And when you let all that excess water hang out in your head too long, that can definitely cause the extensions to slip, especially if you have finer hair as well. And with that too, it's extremely important to put a heat protectant in it as well beforehand to make sure that you are keeping your extensions protected as much, especially if you are going to use like a blow dryer brush where like those get really hot too. And now for styling tips. So let's go over a few like product do's and don'ts. I really don't recommend any like volumizing or like mousses in the extensions when the hair is wet for sure. And when it comes to the hair being dry, you can definitely go in with like a texture spray, a dry shampoo, a hairspray you can put in too. I just don't recommend that being an everyday thing because again, hairsprays can be a little drying, but either if you just need to put it in like once every couple of days or just for special events, like that's totally fine. Product wise, less is just more though with extensions. I don't even really care to put a ton of like texture spray in it every day because again, I feel like that just eventually every single day a full dosing of it just starts to dry it out, and then you need to wash them a little sooner anyway too. So what I normally will do is if I am curling them, I'll put a little bit in every day if I need to. Some things that you can kind of do is just using like your brush to like really help to like fluff them up and reactivate the curl. A lot of times texture sprays will kind of have a little bit of memory in the hair. So even if you like just recurl it a little bit, it can like still kind of like reactivate essentially. So you don't feel like you have to fully douse your hair every single day, or at least your extensions every single day with a full dosing of texture spray. When it comes to hot tools, I definitely recommend, if not professional, then just very good quality hot tools. Preferably some type of like ceramic iron. The ceramic irons are the ones that are glass plated, so they're just a little bit more smoother and gentler on the hair. When it comes to the sleep routine then too for your hair, every stylist has slightly different things. For me, I highly recommend either a bonnet. I love me a good bonnet. You can wrap your hair too in like a satin or a silk wrap. If you don't want to do either of those though, a satin pillowcase is just fine. I love me a good satin pillowcase. Satin and silk are really good for keeping your hair really nice and hydrated. It also prevents your hair from getting tangled or matted overnight. It's really good for your skin too. Cotton is more porous, so it absorbs more of the moisture. So that's why if you have cotton pillowcases and you have like naturally dry hair, sometimes I know sometimes I'll wake up and I'm like, why does my hair feel crusty after I've used a cotton pillowcase? And that's why, is because it just sucked any of the moisture out of your hair. And because of that, it kind of can cause your hair to frizz up a little bit more and have more tension. So that is the first thing. Again, you can get some on Amazon for very inexpensive. I'll link some of my favorite ones down below too, of the satin or the silk pillowcases. And then when it comes to your hair when you sleep, it needs to be put up somehow. It's not negotiable. You're not wearing your hair down with extensions. That's asking for it to be a matted mess. And if you do wear your hair down with your extensions when you go to sleep, then I'm not responsible for any type of like damage that you have to them. As simple as that. A low loose braid is perfect. I will just, with mine, I will brush all my hair back and I will just braid. I start off by braiding backwards, and then once when I can't, like it's too low, then I'll like move my braid to the front. And I'll just tie it off with either like a satin scrunchie or an Invisibobble or just like some type of gentler hair tie. Try to opt away from like the rubber bands and the harsher hair ties, especially on the ends of your hair, because again, that can just cause a little bit of breakage for no reason. I also will do a high ballerina bun. Now, for the high hairstyles, depending on the method, will depend on if I fully recommend you doing something up every night. For my girlies with wefts, because we don't have that 360-degree mobility like those with individual buns do, it is a little harder to wear your hair all the way up all the time. You definitely still can. Now, if your stylist does like an unseen bead method, you have a little bit more flexibility to wear your hair up. However, you still can cause the like sides of your wefts to slip. So just be very careful. Don't make your ponytails too tight, because again, when these guys right here are pulled up for an extended period of time, that can just really cause them to really loosen up a little bit more. You can do a low ponytail. However, I do say though too, that might not be the best on the ends of your extensions. It's good on keeping this top part protected still. And if you're using like a satin scrunchie or a silk scrunchie or a bobble, that's a little bit better. But because you're leaving the ends of your hair exposed, it definitely can dry them out a little bit more, especially if you're not using like a satin pillowcase. Alright guys, that is it for today's video. I hope you guys learned something new. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to ask me down in the comments below, and I will see you guys in my next video. Bye.